Hello and welcome to Royale Without Cheese, our bi-weekly podcast in which we discuss both the classic and the unknown of art and popular cinema from the then and now. We are your hosts, me, Tomás Ferreira, Leonardo Miranda,
Ciao.
Ciao Bello, and Miguel Aido.
Yo.
Today we talk about La Ventura, but before any ado, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, or simply give us a like. La Ventura is a 1960 drama directed by Michelangelo Antonioni, the first film of a trilogy by Antonioni, followed by La Notte and L'Eclisse. La Ventura follows the disappearance of a young woman during a boat trip in the Mediterranean, and the ensuing search for her by her lover and her best friend. At the time, La Ventura was nominated for numerous awards, including the Jury Prize at the Cannes Film Festival, making Vitti an international star. It has appeared on Sight and Sound's list of top 10 greatest films ever made 3 times in a row over the years, and it's known to have influenced several art house directors, including Apichatpong, Chia Zhang, and Koreeda. That's all benissimo, but what did Royale truly think of yet another voyage of Antonioni through the woes of love and staring blankly into the middle distance? Fellas, let's dive in, shall we? Antonioni, La Ventura, was it your first watch?
Of this
Yes.
one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was-
Yeah, true, indeed. For me as well. Heard a lot about it during film school. Haven't yet
That's where
come around
we
it.
should start with our relationship with Antonioni
Ah,
during film
that's a
school,
good one.
because we first watched L'Eclisse
it's
during
true.
film class.
We did?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know,
See,
we did.
that's
I don't
a
know if
good
you were
round
paying
of
attention
applause.
or if you were not in class, maybe, I don't know.
I may have been sleeping
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't blame you.
Or not in that class.
or
Yeah, I
not.
don't know,
Yeah,
but I think it was
That's it, that's it.
history. So I think it was a
Yeah,
everyone
Mike is saving
class.
himself. That's it. That's it. Yes, yes.
But I think it was a history of film class because we were discussing like more modern cinema, as in like different approaches, and we also talked about Auschwitz.
Which was a fan favorite
Yeah,
by the teacher. Yeah.
by a teacher. Yeah, in L'Eclisse we watched it, but I remember at least me and Tomás, we were not very keen on
No.
it at all.
And I've rewatched it again, and the verdict
still
is
there.
no.
I didn't even rewatch it. I can't
no.
see myself
so
changing.
I didn't miss anything, really.
I mean, you missed because it is a strange film, especially the last 20 minutes.
It's interesting to see as an experience, you know. I
No,
love
I-
to have another dig at it, but it was like the thing is, you know, what's interesting. I have been rewatching some of Antonioni's films, and I had seen at the time. Actually, my first one was Blow Up. It was during a high school that I watched it, and it was like, oh my god, what am I watching? I have no idea. It was like a complete mindfuck of my mind, but very interesting regarding its themes of identity. And then it was L'Eclisse, of course. And I think that was about that. And then over time I saw The Passenger, and this passing week I saw essentially La Notte, and I revisited L'Eclisse. I saw The Passenger again. And there are some of his films I really like. I really like La Notte, which is part of this trilogy. And The Passenger specifically as well, because it really touches on this idea. You start to see what are the recurring themes or ideas around his work that he finds attractive. So you start to build a relationship with the world of these impulses that the director has, particularly in this trilogy, La Notte, L'Eclisse, La Ventura. You can clearly tell that there are these ideas surrounding marriage and the inherent rules of marriage, the codependency that can there exist once you build habits with one another and a person, your better half, which you share your life, that he questions, right? You know, where does the self continue to exist, the identity, and what is that identity within the frame of marriage? And he really is part of that group of filmmakers who really share something with the movement that is existentialism, which really is a very open-ended kind of philosophical movement in its designation, but you can see some of the ideas here, you know, what is meaning, you know, and what is, you know, and what is to exist, you know, and essentially, you know, one of the key tenets of existentialism is to question the idea of essence, that we are born with a predetermined kind of purpose, you know, so our meaning in life is done and designated by God, and the, you know, essence is already something discussed by Plato and Aristotle since the beginning of time, and humanity has been well off with that notion since the very beginning, so to speak, until 19th century Kierkegaard and, you know, and Nietzsche started to break the mold with that, and then, you know, life is meaningless, all that kind of spiel. But then Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir brings something else with the notion that you build your own meaning through your actions and choices, and there's this abundance of freedom out there we're all the same. Governments or religion, we're all human beings. So it's through our actions and choices that we can actually continuously bring meaning or purpose to what our life is. And philosophical spiel aside, you can clearly see that at its most direct speech, or rather direct discourse of those ideas in The Passenger with Jack Nicholson, which is a beautiful film. Here in La Ventura, I think it's more distance from that discourse of what's the meaning of life and how do you bring meaning to yourself. Why The Passenger is so interesting to me. La Notte also deals with that. Liclis as well, because it's always to do with these people who can't communicate with each other in a marriage and who really veer off each other to try and connect with the world that can no longer connect. And so they end up connecting with strangers, but it's all very fleeting. So he's very enamored, and you can see that in La Ventura, with fleeting emotions and things that come and go. You know, a relationship starts but then fades. You know, an affair that comes and goes. You know, and what is like connection with something or someone in life. It's something that I say to myself every now and then, which is, it's all very meaningful and all very meaningless. So sometimes I find myself saying that, you know, when I go through hardships or something difficult with someone, it's like, you know what, Thomas, it's like, it's all very meaningful and all very meaningless, you know? So, you know, fuck off. You know? So that's the poignancy of, if anything, of his films to me. And The Passenger is the best because essentially the plot of it, I revisited The Passenger this past weekend, and it was like amazing because, you know, in that film, Jack Nicholson is this reporter who is in the Shad, the Republic of Shad, you know, this African country, trying to kind of deal with the reality of it, reporting like a dictatorship there and a civil war there that is going between rebels and the dictatorship, the set government that is there. And he steals the identity of an arms dealer who is helping the rebels. And so he ceased to be the reporter trying to do supposedly this very altruistic thing of like sort of trying to expose a reality in said country. And then he just takes the identity of somebody else, this arms dealer who died of a heart attack in the same hotel he was staying in, and he just adopts his life and habits. And he doesn't know he's an arms dealer, so he ends up going to Berlin and like Spain, and it's kind of Bondian as well. And, you know, even in the life of somebody else, which would promise this whole freedom, a new passport, etc., he can't help himself but like go along his agenda, you know, his habits. We are a creature of habits. That's what Jack Nicholson says in sort of the film. So there's this beautiful freedom of like, what is to be a human being, even if you have the access of like putting somebody else's hat or putting somebody else's shoes and allowing yourself to have another life. You're always going to be pursued by relationships of the past, because also it's not just the habits that he dictates himself to do, which is the agenda of the arms dealer, which he then gives up. But even when he gives up that agenda of meeting this person at 2 to get the arms, etc., his past life haunts him. You know, Jack Nicholson's has David Locke, his previous identity, goes to him. You know, you have, you know, his previous lover, you know, actually wife, who is divorced from him, really is appalled that he went away. You know, and David Locke is deceased supposedly. So she then goes after him, and so you can never leave your past life. You always exist within the circumstances of like who you were before, the relationships. And so all these notions that the film constructs, these ideas, is very disturbing in a way. Like, what if I wanted to give up everything and I couldn't, because there will be always somebody pursuing me, even my loved ones or something. You know, what happened to Thomas? There's no absence, there's no emptiness. But anyway, see, I'm already talking like The Passenger, who is a film that is much more bubbling with ideas that to me are kind of interesting. And the love relationship that ensues in that film somehow is more interesting between Romy Schneider and Jack Nicholson. And that's one of the key things that I have with this film, La Ventura, is that normally throughout Antonioni's films, La Ventura, what I really like about La Ventura is the opening. Like the first more or so half of the film, I'm really there with this notion of what is to be a couple and the nature of codependency, the fearfulness of starting the marriage. But are we right for one another? Is it gelling well? You know, and what is when habit lets a certain dullness set in. There are other characters in the periphery that kind of paint this idea of marriage that is a little bit sad in that regard, you know, the less exciting part of marriage that is not so romantic. And funnily enough, even comedic. There's a couple here, like, which is Julia and Corrado, which are very funny, you know, normally don't tend to have that. And I love, like, this is why one of the aspects I love in the beginning, you always have this sort of commentary on the nature of marriage. The less romantic nature of marriage, which is every time Julia says something passing like, oh, such amazing volcanic islands, Corrado says, you said that 12 years ago, darling. So, or when she comments like, oh, it seems like the weather is changing. Yeah, I can see that. So it's like, amazing. Like, I don't need you to tell me, bitch. That's always like, it's almost like the horrible like intonation that he has, always dismissive of her. And, the island itself is this sort of odd casting of an island. It's not a very vegetation rich island. It's very desertic, almost plain, but not plain at all. It's a rocky formation. Even for them to clean themselves in there and go up to the top, they really need to climb. So it's dangerous. You always have this very visible element of danger. And when she's gone, this is Anna, kind of the character that goes amiss, and then all you have is her lover, fiance to be, which is Sandro, and her best friend Claudia. That they need to find her, and so as time goes on and on and on, there's just this notion that, God damn it, she's dead. These people are staying here, but it's almost a test to their patience. Like, how long will we stay here? And the longer they stay, you always have this sort of, it's permeating this idea. This is a test to his love. Like, how willingful is he to remain here, being at this cottage, and like trying to skim this island through to try and find her? Where is this going? And how does the waiting and the absence of Anna transform his patience into something he can't stand anymore? And then that then translates into the transformation of he wants to have, he wants to renew his life with Claudia and have a relationship with her. And that I have some questions with, not so much on his side, but on Claudia's side and her interest in him. I think it's too fast and weird how it happens. I don't fully buy it.
I'm gonna pick up on something you said, which was, it became obvious that she was dead, and so a test to their patience. I mean,
at least I'm highly suspicious of her death. We can't be sure, but that's my inclination.
But I mean, to me, that point was my first doubt about
Okay.
what I was, if I was like fully engaged with what I was seeing, because for me it just doesn't make sense, at least for them to jump so quickly to the conclusion that she was dead. Because not just because at first I don't think it's credible, but because afterwards they present us hypothesis that we weren't considering that actually makes sense. Like she could have taken a boat and gone to another island, and suddenly they're actually chasing possibilities of she went to the pharmacist, she went here, she went there, and we are much more led to believe that she is actually alive. So considering all those possibilities were true and were plausible, I mean, I just think that that first inclination towards she's dead is kind of strange. Why would they jump to that conclusion when clearly there are so many ways to get out of here that are actually possible, and there are boats coming in? Because at first, I mean, I kind of saw it too, because it seems very isolated and it's very rocky, and you kind of think, yeah, okay, she probably killed herself, or if not, she tripped and fell. But then you kind of learn that this is like a constant passage point to for boats and terrorism, and you kind of think, oh, okay, maybe she did leave.
Yeah, that's
So
plausible. I don't set this in stone.
yeah, no, but to me it's them, not so much. Okay, yeah, we are led to believe that too, but for me it's them as characters going in that direction after so little time of actually looking and thinking. I don't know. It just the guys of the helicopter had barely arrived, and they had been searching. I mean, the sun's still, in the sky. We assume it's been a few hours at most, because it's not nightfall yet. So it just seems kind of crazy to assume that she died. Because they don't find her as well. They
I
don't find
think the film
traces
leaves it
of her
open.
actually.
Like you say, the film does leave a lot of options open, and one of the options
I
that they
don't I
have
don't
lifted
think
is the
so,
death.
because no, but because
Don't?
they
Alright.
really internalize the fact that she died, because the way they didn't develop the relationship is kind of consistent with this person is gone fully. So maybe let's explore a bit of these feelings we're not sure of. I mean, even towards the end, they express, or she, Claudia, expresses the fact that she's even unsure if she wants her to come back, because of the feeling that she had developed for Sandra. So it's this mix of suddenly I want her to be dead, and it being very confusing. But it shows that that was already her mindset, that she had accepted, at least to some extent, that she had died. I think it mostly is the basis for what happened between them afterwards, is the fact that they believed that she was truly gone.
But I think the attempt of the film is to suggest that it's almost like they use the fact that she's potentially dead, to explore their desires, to justify developing this relationship. It's almost like the fact, I don't know if it works or not, but it's almost like by jumping to that conclusion that she must be dead, what else could it be? It gives them the opening, especially to Monica Vitti's character, to explore this relationship. I think this is what I like about the film. There's an interesting idea here of this conflicting feeling of she's in love with her friend's lover, and their friend disappeared. So it's like there's the opening there, but at the same time, like it's her friend. She wants to be friend. She wants her friend to be alive. So it's an interesting conflict that I think could have been more interestingly explored. I think the film is what Tomás was also suggesting, which is the relationship. I don't really see what she sees in him. I have a hard time understanding what is so like
him. I believe it.
Yeah, on his end, of course,
He's a bon vivant kind of
anything
guy,
that
you know.
moves, he's like horny all the time. But there's a difference between, because then I start comparing, like with La Notte is a lot more interesting. And it's the actors, because I buy Marcel Mastroianni and Jean Moreau, like their sadness and their melancholy and their desires, like I buy it. I look at them and I see it. With these two, especially the guy, it's like you're not Mastroianni, you're not that beautiful, you're not that interesting, you don't have that, that presence,
that screen presence, that star power.
And Monica Vitti, I really like her. She's beautiful, she's great, but there is also something missing that Jean Moreau has that she doesn't, I think.
Testament to that is that in the beginning I actually got them confused, because there's another guy, and the rich guy, the one that is spearfishing and then is super like flirty with the other woman.
Yeah,
actually, in the beginning I actually got them mixed up because they're very similar.
Yeah.
He just doesn't stand out.
But speaking of this actor standing out or not, the curious thing was I did recognize his face. I was like, I know who this actor is. Gabriel Ferzetti. He is in James Bond.
Of course.
He is in the only James Bond set in Portugal. He plays a criminal mastermind called Draco. He's the father of the only love interest that Bond married, so that's pretty funny. I think the film was made in 1969. That's on her
I watched that film. I don't remember his face.
A funny tidbit. Yeah, he has a stash and grayer hair in that film, which is weird. I mean, maybe it's characterization because of it's a difference of like 9 or 10 years since from this film to that next one he does.
But just to wrap up my thought, what I was trying to, I think my point generally got through, but it was just that it seemed rash that they would jump to that conclusion, and it kind of seemed to be just a way to forward their relationship, and and one which I'd never really believe anyway, as you said. So it starts flaky and it remains that way throughout.
And the progression of it, in the fact that
there are little moments of rushedness that are very like, oh, suddenly they're already doing this, and it's like, no. Like when he decides to propose, and then we see them in the hotel room and they're completely in love. It's like I don't buy this.
Yeah, and like the progression of it. On the day she disappears, he goes to the boat. Although I am more forgiving of the understanding of why he does it, because he is who he is, and you are hinted beforehand in the very beginning that he has these ways with women. The father of Anna says, he will not marry you. And that's the way he has about him. So when the character does that, I'm not forgiving it. What I'm saying is that I understand why he does that. That's the character, he's his bon vivant. Even then, you have this relationship. Even if he is a bon vivant, you had this relationship with this other woman who you were kind of trying to convince moments ago, that we are one for each other, we're going to marry, stop, trying to argue. And now you're like kissing this other girl on a boat, like very forcibly. And Claudia's like, oh, no, we shouldn't. And I'm like, okay. So later on, there are other moments where Claudia is clearly going with this attitude, oh, no, we shouldn't, and I'm tortured between. But she clearly kind of wants it and doesn't want it. And I'm like, where is this coming from ever? Where was this hinted at that you had this interest for him? It was never hinted at.
That's the
Yeah,
biggest
that's
point
the
to me. Yeah.
problem. Exactly.
The things with Antonioni, specifically Monica Vitti, I have this problem. I had this problem with her in like Leclis and in this film. I don't know what it is, but with her in particular, all Antonioni's characters have a certain malaise about and an alienation. But like with Mastroianni, Jean Moreau, and even Jack Nicholson, Schneider, I can go along with it, and to various degrees, the relationships work or don't work. In La Notte and Passenger, I kind of go with the flow of the romantic relationships. Although, for example, in Passenger, I said Schneider and Nicholson don't need to have a romantic relationship, really. But okay, if you want to, fine, I buy it. But it doesn't hurt the movie. Here, it's like, I don't know, she just has something where I don't believe her emotions, specifically when she laughs at stuff. She's always laughs hysterically, and it's like, good luck. And I'm like, what, lady? Like she spots a couple of like a couple on a train, and she's laughing at them, and she's pointing, look at them all fun. And I'm like,
Ah, yeah,
what's,
yeah.
what's
That
so
was
funny?
that was a
I'm
bit
like,
weird. Yeah.
these moments of weirdness. Like she has like I don't know what she has, like some disorder. That's why I'm thinking this person is nuts.
I think I only noticed it then. Actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
Uh,
For me, it's
So,
not the
because like
laughing; it's the despair. Jean Moreau is like there's a melancholy and a containedness to her.
yes,
It's in her
definitely.
face. With Vitti, it's like I think it's just taste. Like I just don't think for me I can connect with her. I don't have that emotional access. She just seems to be doing too much with the emotions, which for the films as they are, the Antonioni films, like it's very in the Red Desert that I've also seen. It's similar. I understand she's doing exactly what is supposed to be done. It's
Yeah,
just
clearly he
it's the
wants to.
sensibility. Sometimes the one doesn't work for me. I think in La Notte it really worked, and I think in Passenger when I watch it, now I really want to watch it. From what you say, I'll probably like that one too. But yeah, I think it's more hit or miss. Sometimes my sensibilities don't mash up too well with Antonioni, but but he's always interesting. Like
Yes,
visually, I
clearly
mean,
yes.
it's impeccable, and it's that thing. Like the premise here is interesting. I really the idea of it seemed so good, but then it's just the development is a little underwhelming.
I think here, I mean, I haven't seen La Notte as you said, so I can't really compare. But to me, here it seems more the character itself than her. At least on my, experience of the film, it's more that it doesn't help that the character is like that because the guy, I mean, much mentioned that that he wanted to marry her. But even then, I mean, you see that he's not really meaning any of it. I mean, he says, "Of course I love you," and then he just sits back on the rock and just catches the sun. It's like completely indifferent to the thought of actually marrying her. So we have these hints that he's like this, and it's understandable as a character that he would be this callous and this neutral to the idea of marriage, that it's just a whim. But on her side, it's clearly she's a friend.
And he even says, "You really love her, don't you? You really love your friend." Yes, I do. So,
Yeah, no, but everything about Claudia is hinting that she's more sensitive and sensible, and it's strange to think that she would
yes, exactly.
engage with someone like this. So to me, it starts at the character. I honestly liked Vitti as an actress, but it starts
Yeah,
to connect with a character
I
that is
liked her more in
so.
this film because of that sensitivity and sensibility, as you say it. She's more interesting here than in Leclis. It's really the character has written in the sense of what he's trying to push her to be with Sandro, which I don't buy it, and it's just odd to me.
especially in the first, as far as I could tell, and I went over it again, but in the first 30 minutes, I don't think there's any hint at all of that tension between them.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I didn't see anything. I couldn't find any,
Yeah.
like, just a glance or a look or
Yeah,
something, but
something
not
that would have
really.
helped or something.
It's interesting because she's mostly framed Monica Vitti from behind, like in those, like when they're at the boat. So there is a sense of, oh, she's disconnected from everyone around her because, like, I guess she's the one that's alone. I don't know if she's the only one who's single, but she's one of the single ones, let's say. If there's couples around here. There's that sense of loneliness. But that to me didn't translate into, oh, she must be attracted to Sandro then, and that's why she's disconnected.
That's
No,
a leap.
like not at all. That's
Yeah.
a big leap. then there's that moment like they're talking, oh, Anna disappeared, and then she passes by him and he touches her hand, and it's like, what? Where did this come from? It's like
Yeah.
it, it's just very hard to justify, even if you're trying to, because then it's the realm, purely the realm of the ideas of Antonioni, of like the selfishness of the characters, of being driven by desire and driven by impulses that are, you know, completely contradictory with the world around them. But that's ideas. Like I feel like to justify a character acting this way, just a little hint, like something.
It's ideas, but not realistic.
It cannot be realistic. It's just, I don't know. If there was some hint of it,
Sure, it's always an artful representation of reality, so it
because
doesn't need to.
what we're saying would still be completely insane and unacceptable. But if there's that, oh, she's attracted to him, then I would understand why she is kind of like, oh, maybe if she's dead, it's not too bad. Then I can explore this relationship. That's insane, but at least, but narratively, you'd be a lot more okay. I see it. There's a progression here, but the way it's done, it's not like that. It's a lot more sudden. It's like almost like they hadn't even considered that they were attracted to one, or that she was attracted to him, and now that she sees the opening, it's like, oh, maybe I am attracted to him. It feels a little, it's not even developing in that sense of like, as they're looking for her intensely, they develop a connection because they're engaged in the same action of looking, and so and then there's that
They
conflict.
even look almost separately for a while. Because
Yeah,
he goes one
exactly.
way, she goes another.
It's a
They
very
come across each other on a train. And there's whole discourse of him about, but why sacrifice? You know, we should sacrifice. Why sacrifice for another person? You know, we should be together. Let's help her by being together, staying together. He
Yeah.
says, and he's like, no, não estou preparado or something. I don't buy any of this. I don't buy any of this. From him, okay, but from her, she's our hook into the story all of a sudden. The problem, in a very fundamental way, is that for the greater part of that setup, our protagonist is really not Vitti. She's a peripheral presence, and it's more Anna and
not
Sandra,
peripheral.
what's happening with them. You know,
wouldn't say
but we don't have
peripheral.
any of those hints that you say, you know, those hints of there could be something between them. So when we are launched into, okay, now she is our protagonist, our lead, in the absence of what we previously know, it's weird that we are pushed into this place of having to believe that there is this conflict in her of, should I stay or should I go? Like the Clash say, you know, like, you know.
But like for me, it
So,
establishes
should I
that
go with this guy or not?
she's more or less the focus when they're in the hotel having sex, or his house. It's not an hotel. They're having sex, and there's this frame of her like with in the door. She's outside walking. It's like, to me, that's establishing, okay, again, the disconnection that she feels, or like you can kind of see maybe that's what she wants. Like she wants connection, and Sandro just happens to be that guy. But it's almost like, to me, as I was watching, it's like, is the film suggesting that she is attracted to Anna? And that's what the film is more or less going to be about? Because then
I
there's that
actually
scene where
thought
she
that.
takes, when she gets
Yeah,
naked in front of her, it's the most sexually tense scene
Very
in the film,
sexually,
basically.
dude. Very good point.
I actually thought that too at the scene. Would have been much more interesting.
There's a lot more tension and a lot more suggestion
Yeah,
of
exactly.
attraction between the two girls than there is between her and Sandro. I mean, that's interesting, and you can explore that. But then it's like she's absolutely in love with Sandro, like, and she's heartbroken when she sees him with Gloria, or I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
I think it's Gloria. But it's like I see her heartbreak, and I can't really connect to it. It's just
And now in retrospect, yeah, it kind of makes you think, what was the point of seeing them so connected and so comfortable being like this intimately? It's just, in some way, it even does the opposite effect, which is it furthers that they're close, and then kind of makes it harder for us to accept that she would be so callous to just dismiss her being gone or being dead. It's like, if they are clearly this close, why would she do this to such a close friend, you know? So it kind of makes me think, well, why did we see this scene? Why did we need to see them so close? It just builds tension that isn't going to be explored, and yeah, and it kind of hints at the opposite idea of what they are actually as friends, which is maybe not that close. But they are close, so it's kind of strange to see her being so then indifferent to her friend. But yeah, it would have been much more interesting because the tension is palpable, and it's immediately I was like, oh, okay, is this gonna go this way? Which was unexpected, but clearly it was there, so it would have been at least there would have been chemistry between
It's like,
the two
Uh-huh.
characters, and with Sandra there wasn't.
Some chemistry, anything movie, like, it's just
And
that to push further, to add the emotional contradiction, and then the ending itself just pushes that idea that she's really connected with Sandro. We're really
yeah,
enjoying this,
exactly. It's like,
because
are
when
you
he
really
sits on
gonna
that bench
help
all
him? Oh
sad,
my God.
and she puts the hand on.
What has he done to deserve
You can
pity?
argue it's that thing, women are always put in this position where they need to, how shall I say, resign, and unfortunately, and help the man, and be subservient and all that, to keep things afloat. But do you need to do that, girl, for this guy, really? Like, I don't see it,
Yeah,
because also I don't buy
he's
it. Like, I
just
don't buy the
cheated on you.
relationship.
He's just cheated
On
on
the
you.
floor
What
with another
pity
woman.
does he deserve, man? It's
Yeah.
like I didn't like the ending at all.
No,
It's
no.
don't do this. Tell him to fuck off.
but it's like, but if it was
Fuck off.
Mastroianni, I would kind of buy it. You know, I would be like, okay,
We're
I
all in
get
love with
it.
Mastroianni, yeah.
I am. I would get it. I would be like,
Yes.
okay, I see it.
Yeah.
I see why she
I would
would
also
feel
fall in love with
a little
Mastroianni in Italy.
bit of pity for him. But this guy, but the character would have to be written a little different still. It would be less of a leap, but obviously I would still be like, okay, it's kind of stupid that she does that. You can kind of, okay, I don't know. I get the idea of it. It's like she's being the bigger person in a way. But he doesn't deserve
Deserve
like,
it.
he doesn't not even to be filmed like that with those tears. It's like, oh,
Exactly. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
am I? No, I don't care.
And
It's like, cry.
yeah, I don't care. That's
Yeah,
the
that's it.
amazing
That's a
thing. I
problem.
think, you know, uh, it's one of those things. Like, I think that whether it's a more classical narrative or a minimalist art house film, the question still stands, and it's perfectly normal to say, why do I care? Why do I care, movie? Why are you taking like 1 hour and a half or 2 hours of my time to see you? I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are, who made this film. Why do I care? Which is not a question. That is a rule that completely breaks the ambition of a filmmaker to challenge the audience or demand more of the audience if it brings new ideas, if it demands to be difficult at all. No movie push it. I mean, The Passenger pushes it. La Notte pushes it. They share the same ingredients that we see in this film of alienation, characters held by fleeting moments of carried being by a certain emotion or desire, and then transitioning to another place, whether that is a geographical place or an emotional place, and that can be very interesting and different from what you're normally used to see in a dramatic film narrative. But by God, certain films of him, like for me, Leclis and this one, in my own personal experience, they become so aseptic, so sterilized of like just the minimal dramatic workings for me to care that it becomes absurd. It becomes like one thing is to be an artful representation of reality. The other is to completely distance yourself from what are these people as people. They're not people. They are just ideas that I cannot relate in the real world with at all. So I cannot take this seriously. I cannot take this woman seriously by the end. She feels childish, and I feel betrayed because, like Mike said, she was so sensible and sensitive in the beginning that in the end I'm like, I'm not quite sure. It's not lost on me that it's an interesting experience to some degrees of the film, but I don't find the appeal that the 1960s critic audience saw in it. And then
I mean, it's still a beloved film.
it's still a beloved film, yes. No, but I'm referring more to the initial
And I wasn't
reaction. But yes,
bored or anything.
it's still very no. I wasn't bored neither, but
It's a watchable.
it was
It's a
just
good
like
film, but it's just
narrative.
Towards the middle, I was a bit bored. I'll be honest.
Yeah, fair play.
When they're
it's not
like
surprising.
separately looking for.
To me, it was
like,
more progression.
Yeah,
Progression of like my enthusiasm was very strong, but then seeping in was the other realm of boredom. That by the very end, with that
I
hand
think the
on
boredom is more
the head
when
was like,
when you
I'm out,
realize
I'm
that
out.
the film, it's like, oh, she's not she's falling in love. It's like because my
Yeah,
interest in
yeah.
the film was like, oh, what is gonna be the interesting like hook here, the turn? Because there's a suggestion
It's
here
when
of something
when the
interesting.
ideas resign.
And there are good
exactly.
ingredients.
Yeah, good ingredients, but then the ideas do resign into like, oh, she's in love with him. And, okay,
Yeah, and there are curious other shall we say, themes or actions in the film, and that are propelled by certain scenes are not so much to do with their romantic relationship, but who are these people as people, and particularly Sandro. We get to see Sandro. I don't know what he does exactly. I think he's an architect. And so they're visiting this church at one point, like ringing the bells, and then he goes down there to the plaza, let's say, to this courtyard where he messes around with another artist kind of drawing. I don't know if this aspiring architect, we're not sure, because he has this kind of personal and professional frustration with his own job. He sort of became someone who sets prices for houses, no longer designs them. He's kind of sharing that with her. It's nice to see that inner world, but at the same time, it feels very much something that pops up for a moment and then disappears. So came in, went. That notion of Sandro. I don't know what it's curious, but I don't know what it does for the film. Like that little opening glimpse of a window, and then the men in this film are really curious, like in a bad way. Like the crowds of men who just stare at women. A woman is like an object in this film that just is in the crowd, and then when men start flocking around her, like Jesus Christ. I was like looking at it like gross, like get a life, go away. Like this woman, all she has to do is to go out into the street, and this man are like bambina. Oh, no.
That's just Italians.
Just Italians. I'm like, Jesus. I get it. The experience for married women is that men can be like these very inappropriate stalkers if you find yourself with very insensitive men and being pursued. But this world is very extreme.
Yeah,
But yeah, maybe it's
No, but
extreme. It's
that I
different.
don't mind so much. Like that type of action, I understand. It's also it creates a mood of
It
like
creates atmosphere. It
exactly.
creates a mood,
I
I
don't
guess.
mind
It
that.
creates a greater world. I'm not saying I mind it. I just wanted to talk about it because it's interesting.
Yeah. No, if the film, if there was the narrative development as we were speaking, if it was better, if it was more, I guess, let's say conventional, then I would accept these moments of things that don't make so much sense in terms of how people act in the real world, maybe not so blatant, but you would accept it, like because it creates atmosphere, and you understand that it's developing the ideas of the film along with telling the story well.
And to that effect, La Notte, for example, there are many aspects about La Notte beyond just the actors and their screen presence, as they are as stars, that work for it, and it has very much to do with what you call the more conventional. I just rather call it, just principles of narrative that help balance the more ascetic elements of a minimalistic narrative in film. I mean, for example, you have these little suggestions, these hints of narrative suggestion that can explain, or hint rather, not explain in a clear way, but just hint at how the characters of Marcello Mastroianni and Giacomo feel internally for each other, and why are they acting like they're acting. One of the most impressive things about Antonioni as a filmmaker, I give that to him, and that makes him unique, is that the film always starts in media res, and we don't know, as any film starts, characters are not empty or devoid of life. We enter to their lives kind of midway into their lives. But in his case in particular, the drama already happened. The bomb already exploded, and we're seeing is this sort of emptiness, the wreckage that we are left with, and people just feeling the aftermath. So there's a lot of people going to these places.
But La Ventura is kind of not like that, because the
No,
bomb
it's
is
not
the
like that. Yeah,
disappearance.
it's true.
So it's like maybe you
Yes,
should
it's
have
true.
done what you wanted to do. But this is his first. I don't know if it's his first
Yes.
film, but it's his
No,
first.
he had done 5 features before this.
Yeah.
But perhaps this is the first one that brought him to international attention.
Yeah, at least
within
in this style, exactly. I feel like this is at least it's the first big one. I assume, because I don't know his films before that, but I'll have to have a look. But this is the one that people think as like at least a breakout for Antonioni, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. It doesn't quite start with because La Notte is like, here you are, like these two already just don't trust each other fully,
Disconnected.
but they're disconnected.
And
There's
the beauty of going to that hospital, meeting that writer friend who is dying,
the
and you
tension
can
with
clearly
the
see, yeah, the tension
Moreau already,
between
like,
Jean Moreau and that
strange.
friend.
Yeah.
The way she's filmed, the indirect subjectivity of it all. She never takes, the subjective point of view of the camera. He really films the interiority of a person through the back of their heads. So it's a weird way to kind of translate the idea of we are seeing things through her eyes. But it's, you are incorporating the back of a person's head, which is something that I always find very interesting in film. I love shots that are to do with following a character in a crowd and seeing the back of their heads. It's another way to assess their interiority. And film really speaks, like cinema has this very potent sensual language with the invisible. So anytime you can have someone or something off screen, particularly a face, or shoot just an insert, a hand moving in a certain direction, or a hand moving something, you are always connecting or talking with the interiority, the interior monologue of a character. So he does that in spades in La Notte particularly, because every visual gesture, that idea of we're seeing the interiority of Jean Moreau and how distant she is from her husband through this shot that is not a subjective point of view of how she sees the scene of him talking with his writer friend in this hospital bed, but from the back of her head, creates a almost Hitchcockian God's eye point of view tension of suspense, which is strange. There's a voyeurism to it, which I love throughout the film. And so, and as the film progresses, you can clearly tell that there's something that could have been, not there is a certainty, but these characters, Mastroianni and Jamerot, are betraying each other. Marcello we are hinted that he's always kind of, he has a codependency with her because she has more money. In these films throughout the trilogy, there's always the idea of class, but particularly in La Notte, class is a thing in the sense that he, as a writer, is very dependent on Moreau, who is the richer of the two, and he wants to leave the marriage, but he can't, and there's a dramatization of it all, that at the party of a friend, a rich friend, the friend comes to him, and he wants to give him a job, so there's the opportunity for him to leave the marriage with Moreau, and that creates a tension that is visible, palpable, okay? So we see that he wants to leave the marriage. He even talks openly with Moreau about, this guy offered me a job, maybe I could leave our marriage, and she interacts with him in that respect. Why don't you do it? So we feel we're in the throes of it, we're going with it. And in the end, when they try to salvage any residue of love that might be between them, it's just romantic. Marcello is throwing himself to Moreau, kissing her right after she read that letter, the first letter of love that Marcello ever wrote to her, declaring her love. And he asks, who wrote that? It was you. Amazing, beautiful, I'm there, I'm feeling it. L'Avventura wouldn't dare to go to these heights. L'Avventura did not do this for me. And maybe it's a case of the second film he matured, like he developed that sensibility better. For me, it's a little bit perhaps like Nosferatu. He's revered as one of the greatest films by Murnau. And sure, it has many of the groundbreaking elements of horror that made it one of the first horror films at the time, German expressionist, that, in the shadow play and all. But Faust is what Nosferatu could never be. Faust, which is a follow-up in 1924 or something, creates an atmosphere of smoke and mirrors that is amazing. I'm amazed at that film even today. It's one of the best films ever of all time. And it is what Nosferatu want to be, but 5 stars above.
I think it's different. It's different. I think they exist in different realms. But yeah,
that film
Nosferatu, I've never been a big one, even though I love more now. But yeah, just there's a difficulty there. But it's that different. It's realms, contextual. Though. You have to understand the context in which it was released. The movie. It's just. But yeah, but it's not my favorite more now either. Faust is amazing. Yeah.
But just to inspect a little bit there, what do you mean contextual? Like in comparing Faust to Nosferatu, they're not that similar. The context between each other.
They're not that similar, but it's. Like the earliness of Nosferatu in being the way it is just. Yeah, when I mean context, it's not comparing to Faust. I mean Nosferatu itself is a very influential film, very unique. It changed a lot of things. Movies weren't. I
recognize that at the beginning. Yeah,
that's what I mean. That's why when you watch a movie like that, you have to, you kind of have to force yourself to see it, to try to see it in the context, which is difficult. That's why I don't connect or love it as much. But it's like when you listen to the Beatles. Sometimes you have to be like, what it's like to be in the 60s listening to this music. It's a little different than being in 2026.
It is true. Sometimes a person can forget that and judge a film without that, but it's true.
Yeah. But then there's also that when you watch it thinking of that, then it unlocks sometimes, and you start seeing the work for just as it is. But I never shit talk Murnau.
Like you do.
Like you
Like
do.
how you dare.
How dare you?
I'll go there. I'll go there.
I'm incapable of such blasphemous
Blasphemous behavior. And yeah, and I have to say also, La Notte has a beautiful scene in the rain between
You should
Jamojo
have
and
picked
this
La Notte
very
or The
fluid.
Yeah,
Passenger,
clearly.
honestly. I don't know.
No, but it's interesting because sometimes it's funny to talk about a film that you didn't like so much and compare it to
Yeah, no, I know.
something else.
I'm
I
just saying.
talked a lot about La Ventura, but like La Notte was like, like you have this scene in the rain. Sorry, Mike. You have this scene in the rain between Moreau and this brief lover that she picks at the party, and she's almost there, like having this personal affair with this other guy, betraying Marcello, and there's no sound but the rain, and it's like, wow, this is a really radical thing. Like you have no natural sound, no natural ambience of other people on the street or like cars passing by or whatever, or even wind. It's just the wind. It's very abnormal. And it's making all the talking in a very surreal way between these two people and the sexual tension between them. Will they, won't they? I thought it was really beautiful. I don't know if you noticed, Leo, but I was really taken by that
The whole
brief
movie
scene.
it's great. The more just watching like La Ventura made me love La Notte even more because it's really amazing. You feel the alienation and the sadness and the distance a lot more, even in the image. I don't know. In this one, it feels a little. I don't know. And yeah,
Although
it's
this
just
film is
little
still
things.
very beautiful.
Yeah, I know it
Yeah,
is
no,
beautiful,
it's crafted
great,
beautiful.
and I love
Yes,
the
of
image, like
course.
where they film it.
Yeah, yeah.
The
It's in
islands,
Sicily and the islands,
Aeolian Aliens or something.
Aeolian Islands.
And he has an amazing traveling shot, like when they meet up and they're already kissing at the church. It's this traveling like from an alleyway, from like a small alley that moves in closer to
Oh, I
the
saw that. I
square.
saw that. Yeah. And I was saying to myself, beautiful shot.
It's like so modern. I thought it was. I can't explain the modern quality of it. I don't know why it is, but it felt out of the
Out of
film in
time,
terms
out
of
of
yeah,
place.
out of time.
They're going to the corridor in this alleyway, and you see this big church behind them. And I don't know what it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
about. It's
yeah,
very alluring. It just goes in. It's very beautiful, actually.
yeah, yeah.
And the way they make love has a very kind of open-ended way of saying it. I don't mean sex, but just kissing and being in love and being tender with each other. In old movies, it's always very funny to me, but particularly in this one, it's very funny to me because the way they kiss each other on the
We didn't
grass,
know how to
I
have
was always
sex
like,
at the
this is
time.
like this is like this. Oh,
Mm, but it's Italian movies
it's just going.
especially. I've watched
You're going like
even in Fellini movies, they also kind of kiss like they just rub their faces. It's
they
like
rub their faces,
it's
like,
very strange. Is that how
and I'm like,
Italians
this is one of the
kiss?
things, like Monica Vitti, like, why, like, what? And it's like she's half laughing, half whatever, like, oh, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It's just like they're pressing the lips against each other. It's
Pressing the
like, okay,
lips
that's it.
and rub a dub dub,
Rub it
like,
up, up. It's like, oh,
weird,
we're married. Like actors, we're married, so we can't actually kiss. So we have to.
I
It's
guess.
like, I don't think that's the reason.
Probably
Just
there's
saying.
a history of kissing in film
Yeah,
that changes over
that's a good
time.
one.
There's something
Somebody
about
to
it.
do a video essay with that, like Cogonado, get to it.
Yeah, it's true. It's good. It's good. Well, yeah. He better get to it instead of making
Yeah.
movies. Because that beautiful
I
journey, I don't know what it
I
went there.
haven't watched. I heard it's very bad. Yeah.
It's like he suddenly went from this very contained, moody kind of filmmaking with Columbus to these very mainstream soapy things, and I was like, "What
It's
happened,
like,
dude?"
yeah, not. I mean, not too dissimilar to Greta Gerwig in a way. With
I
her
guess so. Yeah.
journey. No, it's just because you said, yeah. I would prefer if
One
she.
more with Barbie. I think up until Little Women, it still
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
personal
But it's
and
ambiguous already, Little Women. It's alright because there's a history
The
of Little
transformation
Women.
is
Like,
happening inside the cocoon.
yeah, it's already okay. I can see it, but
Yeah.
it's because we know what comes after, like Narnia and Barbie, so it's okay. But at the time in
yeah, that's
2019, no,
true.
I was more okay. It's
True.
a continuation.
I always miss Greta from like Frances Ha. That's its own world. And you've seen more. You've seen Miss America. I think that's one of them.
Mistress America, yeah.
Mistress America, yes. And in other words,
It's great
that
too.
she's been. So that's all for today, folks. If you'd like to reach out and suggest a film for the next episode, you can find us on the podcast official Instagram and website pages. Feel free to subscribe, share this episode, or simply give us a like. That's how our podcast can grow ever more groovy. And if you're on YouTube and want to see more videos like this, check out this next video right here. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.